Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Kay Murray, Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop here in the studio. Tonight we are going to be joined by Jan Åge Fjørtoft as well. And we're going to kick off the show with Benjamin Sesko. Once again talking about this man. The reports are stating that new bids have come in from both Manchester United and Newcastle United. But Craig, if we take the Manchester United angle here, it feels as though the general consensus on this panel is that even with Sesko in that Manchester United team, that's not enough to finish in the top half of the table next season.
Top half?
Top half.
I would expect them to be in the top half. I mean, if they're not in the top half, even with just signing Mbemo, then Ruben Amorim has to go. I mean, they were not in the top half last year because they had this horrendous run. I mean, I thought you caught me off guard there, because I thought you were going to say... I did. I said not in the top half. I thought you were going to say not in the top six. And
so what's the best they could do with him?
Well, they've signed Mbemo, they've signed Cunha, and they may sign Sesko. That doesn't paper over the other deficiencies in the team. You could look at the full-back area, you could certainly look at a centre-half position, and you definitely 100% could look at the middle of the park. That being said, I mean, currently it would be a struggle, I think, to get in the top six, but the top half of the Premier League, Manchester United, with one of the most respected young managers in the game, albeit he struggled and has struggled since he came in, with international footballers all over the team, all over the squad, and we can debate whether they're good enough to be on the Liverpool of... Well, it's not a debate. They're not on the level of Liverpool and Arsenal and I suppose City and Chelsea and all the sort of runners and riders that are chasing, like Newcastle and Aston Villa and one or two others. They're not on that level, but come on. Top 10 in the league? Yeah. If they're not in the top 10 in the league, even with the signings, then he has to go. I mean, it's not even difficult. So with these signings and maybe one or two, I think there's a lot more expected of him than finishing, 9th or 10th in the Premier League. That's totally unacceptable.
So Jan, with varying degrees of optimism, if Benjamin Sesko is to come in at Manchester United, what are your thoughts on how he'll translate a player coming from the Bundesliga to the Premier League? This player in pretty much focus here.
Yeah, well, the last former Red Bull Salzburg striker who came to Dortmund and went to Manchester, he did okay, Erling Haaland. So Sesko, he's a kind of same player, but I don't expect him to go all that in, but he's a great player. He has to adjust, as every other foreigner needs to do when they come to a new country. Remember Kai Havertz, we remember Timo Werner. That was a bit COVID and all those kind of things. So I think it's come down to not the nationality, but the personality, how much they want to do this. Remember, this is a Slovenian player who has been in Austria, who has been in Leipzig, and now he's going to adjust to another country. He's accustomed to that. He's done that before. I don't think that will be a big problem. Then it all depends, of course, of people going. Craig was talking about the tools, the weapons they have in front. I mean, but you need players to play them up. You need legs in midfield, Manchester United. You can't concede goal. You need a goalkeeper. There is a lot of things that make you stick with a team, because of course it's easier to come to a team that's functioning. It's a big difference between being Florian Wirtz coming from Leverkusen into a Liverpool team that he will have a lot of the ball. That they will be good in this season as well. Benjamin Sesko, if now he goes over the line and he comes to Manchester United, he has to come to a team that's functional as well. Will he be a 22-year-old that's going to lead the line for them? No, he won't. But he will be a very, very good addition for Manchester United in their way to get top six. I think they will be top six.
But if he's not going to lead the line for them, Jan, who is?
I take them metaphorically. I don't say that he's going to lead the line. I don't think that there will be the only responsibility. He's not the one. That's Bruno Fernandes' job. That is other players' job to lead the line in those. But he will lead the line and be in the team. I think when you see the three now up front for them with Fernandes and in and around, you have players that who can sometimes cross a ball, which would be very, very important. But Manchester United now seem to they're a bit off balance, but it's still like 3 weeks at least left of the transfer window, and they need to invest even more to get a team that I predict will be top 6.
I still think top 8 is Manchester United's ceiling, with or without Benjamin Sesko. And listen, and while the additions in Mbeumo and Cunha are good additions, and certainly improve Manchester United, let's be honest, nobody was banging down the door for those two. And even with Sesko, and while I take Jan's point, I think it's more a case of Sesko will be that great player. I'm not sure he is that player right now that takes Manchester United from 15th to 6th. That's a hell of a jump. Maybe in time and given his age, he progresses to become that player, but I'm just not sure that he is right now. And that's a big ask of a 22-year-old, regardless. So let's be honest, and while there is a bit of a bidding war right now for Benjamin Sesko, that's going on because Newcastle are worried about losing Isak and need a replacement. Otherwise, again, it's just Manchester United who's the potential suitors. So, all that being said, I think Manchester United move in the right direction. I still think they have far too many deficiencies. I'm not sure if those additions that have arrived this summer is enough to see them jump 6 places. 8th for me is still their ceiling.
At least they're trying to buy. At least they're attempting to buy players that are gaining interest from other clubs.
Yeah.
You know, when Højlund came in from Atlanta, he wasn't a great scramble for Højlund. I don't remember anybody, although they paid big money. I don't remember many big clubs falling over themselves to try and sign Anthony. And they've got a few like that, whereas Mbeumo was a player who interested a lot of people from Brentford. Cunha was a player who has been at a high level and has interested a lot of people. Arsenal were looking at him. There was talk about Arsenal last January to try and bolster them for their second half of the season. That didn't happen. We know he's a good player. We know he's a little inconsistent at times, but we know he's a talent. And Sesko is a player that both Newcastle have been bidding, United have been bidding. Before Gyökeres went to Arsenal, his name was linked with Arsenal. So, and as Jan said, he's been around for a youngster. He's been around 2 or 3 countries, and he has got good experience. So I'll give them the due in that sense. They're trying to sign good quality players here, or decent quality players. Let's be honest about it. Most decent players would improve this United side. That's how low they have got. That being said, though, when you look at some of the garbage, and I'm being serious here, for the money spent in the Premier League, right? For the money generated by television in the Premier League, the amount of absolute dross teams in the bottom half is scary. With all that money spent, they've got more money than any of the leagues in Europe, but yet they spend it terribly. So let's not get away from the Premier League is the greatest thing ever. It is not. It has a very strong top end. Last year, not so much, because Liverpool were head and shoulders, but it generally has a very strong top end. Then when you sort of go under 7th, 8th, 9th into mid-table, it's absolutely bang average. And I mean bang average. You got Crystal Palace, who, and Oliver Glasner did a great job, but they have a very small budget. They sell their best players, and they can still be a sort of mid-table team, and they can still have the cup run, which was sensational for them last year. So if we're saying, and some of my colleagues here are saying that they don't expect United to get in the top half, that's a hammer blow. I mean, there is no way that, absolutely no way, come hail or shine, that Ruben Amorim is going to survive sitting in 12th or 13th on the table. It's just not going to happen.
I think it's a valid point to say that if you compare it with the recruitment they had under Ten Hag, he had his way of playing, but he also had his way of recruitment. He wanted those players from Ajax, a lot of players from Ajax. Also remember, we see how Rasmus Højlund has struggled this season. But if we saw his stats before he came to Manchester United, I think he had 9 goals in the Serie A, not against the best oppositions. He had 6 and 7 goals for Finland. For Denmark, and one was a hat trick against Finland. That has changed a bit. But Having said that, Craig, I saw Tottenham being the low part of, they won the Europa League. That is one thing. But I think that Premier League got to challenge themselves. As it stands now in this transfer window, Sunderland, the newly promoted team, is the 7th biggest spender in the world right now.
But let's talk about...
There's a lot of things going on.
Obviously.
Well, again, that sort of backs up my point, Jan, that the Premier League gives teams the ability to go out and spend this money. Not all of them take that. Not all of them take that choice. But my point is, if you go to La Liga and even the Bundesliga and other leagues that we cover, and not just leagues that we cover, but certainly those are the ones that we watch the most of, you could argue that some of the teams around mid-table, having spent a lot less money, are technically superior to some of these teams that are sitting mid-table in England. And I think that's not good enough when you have the ability to spend what they do compared to other leagues. Who I think, for example, La Liga, which we do every week, I think the teams that are, and I'm not saying, La Liga team would beat a Premier League team every week or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But when we watch these games, I think a lot of these smaller teams are technically superior to teams in the Premier League, having spent a lot less money. And that's why, for me, that the talk of Manchester United next year, not even being good enough to get in the top half, would be a shocker to me. So I think they will. But I wouldn't have my mortgage on them having a great season, but my God, they have to be good enough to be in the top half.
Going back to Jan's point earlier, though, Craig, when you talk about players coming specifically from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, and you're talking about these big fees that we've seen paid, it can be hit and miss. Is it a risk they just have to take? Well,
I mean, what do? Stop fishing in a pond because you catch a couple of bad ones? I mean, sometimes players leave a bad taste. Timo Werner, is he... He's not even on that list. Timo Werner, for me, sticks out as a player who had a big... Kai Havertz would be another, but you can't say Kai Havertz has been terrible. He's not been terrible. He has, he scored the winner in the Champions League final. He was sort of in and out of Chelsea. I think he's been okay at Arsenal. He's done some good things, done some average. I just don't think he's lit it up. But Timo Werner, for me, was the one. He had 2 goals. One at Chelsea and one at Tottenham. And he was a regular German international, very experienced player. And he looked like a kid in the playground who just sort of lost all his confidence. So there's good and bad. You saw that list. There's been some really good players. And I don't think it's any league in particular. I think sometimes players just come into a certain league, they lack confidence or they struggle. And I honestly don't believe this. And a lot of people throw this out there. I don't know what the guys think. But when people say, they struggle with the physicality of the Premier League, I don't buy that. No. I mean, it's not a wrestling match. I mean, Spain's physical, Germany's physical. Not many more leagues physical than the Italian league. So I don't buy this. The Premier League is too physical. Sometimes some players settle, some players don't, and we see that on some of these graphics. That's not a reason not to go back to your country. You're buying an individual. And you're just hoping that he's going to be the right fit for you at that time, which Sesko or these other players may or may not be.
Listen, I'm in total agreement, and to your phrasing, Kay, hit or miss. And while there have been some rather spectacular misses, there have been some fantastic hits. Kevin De Bruyne stands out for me on that list. Now, if you take that chance that you get another Kevin De Bruyne, that is every reason to go fishing in that same pond yet again. And again, I'm with Craig. It's worrying for a Tuesday. But
it's a long week, Shaq. Yeah. Are you back on this week?
Goodness me, I'm concerned about the rest of the week now. But a lot of times, and you see that, and it becomes easy to say that players don't fit into England because of the physicality, or they going the other direction. There are issues. You've got players like Scott McTominay, who's come through the English system, doesn't make the grade for Manchester United, goes to Italy and does wonderfully well as he does. You've got players like Cesc Fabregas, who played with Arsenal and even for a small man coped with the physicality very well, and that's as big an understatement as you can make about Cesc Fabregas, but maybe didn't have that same impact, and I know injuries had a part in going back to his native Spain. So there are all kinds of ways you can look at this that I don't think does anyone any true service, and you've got to keep taking that chance. You've got to hope you get that right player. That player fits in because even for the best of managers, Sir Alex Ferguson had a few misses himself. You get some wrong, but on the hope that you get quite a few right.
Well, you got to go abroad as well, haven't you? Sorry, Jan, you got to go abroad just quickly, because who else? If you want to shop for an English player, a British player, a British striker, where are they? Where are they? I mean, Harry Kane's at Bayern. He's not gone anywhere. He's in his 30s now. Where are you going to go? Who's the next? Am I missing something here? I mean, Marcus Rashford. He's somehow won a watch. He's going to Barcelona. You wouldn't call him an out-and-out striker.
Ollie Watkins.
Ollie Watkins is a decent signing, but I mean, you're not.
He's what, in his 30s now?
He's 29.
I think, Craig, what you are saying is that you will go to Germany, and now it's always trends, aren't there? That you go somewhere to find the players. What do you know about German players? They're well educated. They've got a good coaching system. They've come through the ranks. They are tactically aware of adjusting. But I think this is down to personalities. There are players in Munich that can't adjust to Bayern Munich, and they came from North Germany coming in there. So I think that I remember when I went the other way. I think it could be harder to go from England to Germany, because in England you had that tradition. And if you walked into a dressing room, people said, "Okay, see you. Good to have you here," and you were adjusted straight away. I mean, yes, things have changed since the 90s, but it's just a matter of a culture in Germany. When we went the other way, when I went to Frankfurt back in the days, there were more a hierarchy. I was warned by some players I should avoid. The guy I played, I got number 9, and who used to have number 9, he didn't talk to me for 3 months. I didn't care, but it's still, that's how it is. So I think that it's down to personalities. And Timo Werner, when he went back to RB Leipzig, when he went back to Germany, he looks like a kid there as well. And now he's back in Germany. So it's very much down to how you are welcomed in a club. And when you saw that this Jadon Sancho, yes, he was not a hit, but he's English last time I checked. So there is a lot of things going on with every player there.
Yeah. Called his team's performance, the 2-2 draw against Everton, lazy. He said, "We didn't want to finish this way. Our performance wasn't the best, and we were a little bit lazy today. We want to avoid that, because with laziness, you can pay at any moment. Hopefully, we can add 1 or 2 more players." Just wanted to get your opinion on what he said, Craig.
Well, I mean, I don't want to upset Manchester United's biggest and most recent summer recruit, who sat to my right-hand side here, who was you were praising them to the high heaven.
I was just saying, as pre-seasons go, it's as good as you can get from Manchester United.
It's Tuesday today. It was Sunday. You were waxing lyrical about Manchester United pre-season.
I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying, as pre-seasons go, this was as good as Manchester United could hope for.
He doesn't think so.
Well, one game off of one game, but. Aside from which, my point then was just simply, if Manchester United had lost 5 to who was it, Bournemouth and West Ham, it would be a very different discussion. They won those games, they needed to, now they have to build on that. That's got nothing to do with what Bruno said here.
Yeah, but if I may say, Craig, all the reports from the Manchester United pre-season camp, there are good signals, and we compare that with last summer. So now, but Craig, there's nothing to do with winning preseason. I hate preseasons. I hated it as a player. I hated to watch it now. So I'm 100% with you. We can't read a lot into it, but I think you can see with Bruno Fernandes, you can see with Amorim, you can see they tried to do something with a bad culture. You can see that there was a good move to lead Garnacho at home. It was a good move to make Rashford stay at home, because you have to build that culture. Manchester United got to build a culture. And I see and I read the quotes from Fernandes in that perspective, that they just want to make sure that the culture is okay, Craig. And even you have to admit that is a good thing to do.
I totally agree. And I think it's been patently obvious since, not just, I think, when Ralph Rangnick went in there, and I think... and he had a look at it, and he got a lot of criticism, and his results weren't good. But he was a man, and he is a man who is used to looking deeper into football clubs. And I think he looked at the whole structure and the playing staff and how they went about things, and knew, that it was rotten to the core. And so, you know, Ten Hag comes in, he tries to change it, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go with the whole story because it's a book and a half. But it's been crystal clear that they are trying to change the culture. But whilst you're trying to change the culture, you still have to get results as well. And I think that's important to remember, that for Manchester United, you can't do one thing without the other. Unless you've got some sort of 10-year project where you do have time. Managers just don't get that kind of time anymore. The interesting thing for me with Bruno Fernandes is, in this whole talk about Mbemo and Cunha and Sesko, is it continually seems to me that he's going to be playing deeper and deeper and deeper. And I just don't see how this really works, because whenever he's playing in these deeper positions, which he has done before, picking the ball off the back four and playing these long passes, it just negates the best part of his game, which is picking the ball up in the final third and prodding and you know, assisting and, you know, scoring these great goals and doing all those sort of stuffs that we know Bruno Fernandes can do. And the deeper he gets into a more unnatural position, and central midfield is an unnatural position for him. I mean, it really is. That's a concern for me. So you're looking at better signings, but you're looking at the balance of the team. And it's, one of the things is, and he's going to be captain, I believe, next year again, is how are they going to fit Bruno Fernandes and get the best out of him into this Manchester United side? It's not just there's no point just buying all the pieces of the jigsaw and then you've got no idea where you're going to put them. You have to know where you're going to put people. And that's going to be one of the interesting things with Ruben Amorim. Where's he going to fit the players that are going to make the difference? And that will be the difference for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure to hear Craig, Shaka and Jan answering your questions on the latest edition of Extra Time. Liverpool made it 2 wins from 2 versus Athletic Club in a double header of friendly matches at Anfield. The second was yesterday, it finished 3-2, and it was a strong, if not first choice lineup that we got to see from Arne Slot. We got to see some debuts from Liverpool's new recruits as well. We welcome in Beth Lindop. Jan Fjortoft is also with us. Beth, let me start about that lineup against Athletic Club. No Isak in that, obviously. If that's to be the case, is that the lineup we'll be seeing, do you think, next season from Liverpool?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was pretty much as close to a strong 11, the strongest 11 as Arne Slot could field yesterday. He was out without Virgil van Dijk, who was out with illness. Connor Bradley as well, the defender, was out with an injury. So both of those players, I think, could come in. Alexis McAllister played in the earlier game as well, so you would expect that he'll come back into the side, possibly in time for the Community Shield. If not, then in time for the start of the season. He's still working his way back to full fitness after injury. So there's maybe 1 or 2 little tweaks that Arne Slot could make there. But on the whole, you know, that's probably Liverpool's strongest side at the moment. And, you know, I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by how sharp they look. I mean, I agree with the guys. You can't judge too much from pre-season, but you know, from what I've seen so far from Liverpool, they do look really slick, and the new signings seem to have bedded in pretty well already.
Do you like how that side looks?
I just like Liverpool squad in general. Yeah. I like Arsenal squad, to be fair. They've spent well. I think it's going to be a great head-to-head, whether City and Chelsea jump back in, particularly City, maybe Chelsea, you know, depending on their consistency. People, I think, get a little carried away with the Club World Cup. But the one thing for Liverpool is they are, every week now, home and away, they are the team that everybody wants to beat. Last year when they started the season, when Arne Slot came in, it's Liverpool Football Club, they're huge and we get all that and they have great players. But they were third favourites to win the league last year. I think, you know, it was Arsenal and City, and then Liverpool can't win it. They've got a new manager coming in, he's never been in the Premier League before and all that sort of nonsense. And they put that to bed very quickly. They were the best team by far, by a stretch. Played some great stuff, but they are now the team to beat. So every week, weekend and a Tuesday or Wednesday and a weekend again, home and away, they're the team that everybody wants to knock off. So that's a different level for them, I think. And you know, that's what they've just brought on themselves. They were so good last year in the Premier League that wherever they go this year, you know, teams are either going to just, you know, sit really deep against them. They're just going to be panicking about doing this. And so it might be a slightly different nugget for them this year, but I like the manager. I think it's a great squad. They've spent a lot of money because they didn't do that in the last couple of years, so they've sort of saved themselves a little bit, and they look very, very strong. So yeah, I like the look of them. I don't think they're going to go away. And if Arsenal or City are are going to win the league. They're going to have to play well. But yeah, that's a really, really good-looking Liverpool squad.
You had that same reaction when I put that question to Craig.
I absolutely. And the thing is, you look at Liverpool last season and how they dominated the league. And yes, I know it was an off-season for Manchester City. We see what they look like. But Liverpool were by far and away the best team in the league last year. And they have had a hell of a pre-season. I mean, spending to back that up. But to Beth's point, as long as those new signings bed in, Florian Wirtz in particular, Ekitike up front, he's young. You expect a little bit of a roller coaster from him in terms of form. But whether on a slot goes to a front three or front four with Ekitike, it really is a fearsome lineup. I just feel that this version of Liverpool, on paper, we haven't kicked a ball yet, on paper is so much better than the Liverpool of last season. And that's a worrying aspect for the rest of the league to consider.
Beth, as you know, we love to tell you what Stevie Nicol said on this show. One thing he said yesterday was that if Isak's not to come, he would be happy with Darwin Núñez sticking around. Is there any chance that does happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite surprised that Núñez is still with the squad, to be honest, and played a big part yesterday. He played in the first game of the afternoon against Athletic Club, so he's still very much involved in the squad. There's been interest in him all summer. I would say that, you know, I'm 90% sure he will move on, but it is just where he moves on to and whether a fee comes in for him. We know that there's been interest from Saudi, who you would imagine would be prepared to pay probably the highest amount of any potential suitor. There was interest from Italy earlier in the window, but it's whether they could afford him. So I think those details will need to be right for Liverpool to let him go. But I think for both the player and the club, the best thing for him would probably be to move on. That said, he gets a goal yesterday, so who knows? Maybe it could be fourth season lucky for him. But no, I think there's sort of the Núñez experiment at Liverpool now. I think for both the player and the club, the best thing would be for a fresh chapter, I think.
Well, that's a statement, isn't it, from Stevie? If they don't get Alexander Isak, he'll be happy for Darwin Núñez to hang around. I mean,
I feel like he's always got a bit of a soft spot for Darwin Núñez, though, Stevie, right?
well, it's nothing to do with soft spots. If they don't get Alexander Isak and they lose Darwin Núñez, then
it's not great. But then to that point, though, Jan, is Darwin Núñez okay sticking around and being a squad player when he probably could get more minutes elsewhere?
No, but I don't think he should. I don't think it's a part of the strategy. Remember, when we're talking about how good they look on the pitch now, it's also how good they look off the pitch. I mean, the strategy they're having now. Remember back in the days when Jurgen Klopp had to ask his mate from Germany to come in and help him, and that didn't work out. Last season, there were 3 players who were the best players who could leave on a free. And Darwin Núñez, that is a part of the strategy to get in money. They got 75 million euros for Diaz, and as Beth is saying, there's some fees can come in from the Saudis, so that means that they can get up to 150, 160 million euro for 2 players who are not secure in for a place in the team. So I think that although they look very well good on the pitch, at the moment they look even better outside. How this club is run, if you compare it with some other clubs in England, it was like last season was a bonus season. I don't think even Liverpool thought they're going to win the league last season. I thought they thought that would be a season that they put themselves into top 4, and then they're going to attack this season. And now they're here, a reigning champion, and they are attacking again. Give them a broader squad, and they give Diaz and Núñez away. That is good management.
And
I mean, he's had enough chances, isn't he, Darwin Núñez? I mean, you could not fault him for endeavour.
No.
You could not fault him for fighting and running, and he scored some great goals, but he just was never consistent enough for a football club that has the ambitions and has the standards that Liverpool has, and that's unfortunate. And he's not the first, and he's not the last. And I do agree with everybody here that I think his time is somewhere else. The big question is, if they don't get the player coming in, will they still sell Núñez to get the money? When that's another man down. I mean, the transfer window has still got a little bit to run, so they could do some other business if Isak is not the player coming in. But in terms of his Liverpool career, yeah, I mean, he's had enough chances, and I think he's proven that he was never going to be anything other than a player who come on for 15, 20 minutes as a bit of a battering ram at the end of the game, or played in the Carabao Cup to give the others a rest. And that's unfortunate, because his last season in particular at Benfica was very, very good.
As a former midfielder, I wanted to ask you, because obviously there's a lot more pressure on Liverpool this season. When you look at Dominic Szoboszlai, we just saw him in that 11 there. How much pressure's on him this season to be that defensive linchpin?
Well, I think there's a lot of pressure on him to have his spot in the team. Because I think, have I missed something? But, you know, McAllister's going to be around. And I think the preferred partnership there is probably Gravenberch and McAllister, with potentially Wirtz as the number 10. And Szoboszlai is a player that does a little bit of everything. He's an old-fashioned dynamic box-to-box midfielder, but he likes getting forward. And even though as good a player as he is, experienced Hungarian international, he's the captain of his country, he was a little in and out last year at Liverpool before, you know, Florian Wirtz comes in. And we know how good a season, which was stunning really, the season that Gravenberch had, bearing in mind how he'd performed before, that Arne Slot came in and saw something different in him, and the whole game changed. And so I think Szoboszlai is a big player for them. I think this midfield is an excellent midfield, but I think he's going to have to play well just to be in this team. Unless Florian Wirtz moves position and they play with Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai, then one of those three is going to have to miss out. And I think for the most part, it's probably going to be him.
Well, you wonder if Florian Wirtz is going to be able to play in whatever position he wants to. This is him on his role, on being, on having that freedom under Arne Slot. He said, I'm a player who needs freedom on the pitch, and the manager gives that to me. Of course, I have to respect the position and the players around me, but I try to give my best on the pitch and find the right places. I have the freedom to do that. Now, obviously, having the freedom sounds great in theory. There's a lot of trust involved there. But we've seen things like this, similar to this, Jan, with Real Madrid under Ancelotti, who gives his players that freedom to express themselves. Is there a fine line in having that freedom and having a more set role under a manager?
That is a good observation of what they do. The thing is that you saw by Liverpool, and you see with this squad of Liverpool, there are a lot of players who can play in different positions. That is a part of their game. And I was thinking, as you can see, okay, my Middlesbrough shirt behind me. Remember when we got Juninho? Yeah, and we got Juninho, and Brian Robson just said, just go out there and have fun. Find that space between the midfield and the back four of the opposition team. It's not that easy nowadays because everything is more analysed. But Florian Wirtz is a street footballer. I think it's one of those things that won him over, that Arne Slot told him that this is how we play. I want you to be an in and out player. You can be in and out striker. You can be a number 10. You can play left at our club, and still you will have people around you that secure your position. So I think that Arne Slot absolutely can put him into that position, and you can't limit Florian Wirtz. That kind of player can't be limited through a tactical, defined kind of thing. But even Alonso found places for him, learned him things, got him to be disciplined in that position. He does that also with Germany. He can just not be a guy running around, but he fits so perfectly to Liverpool, and all the compliment to both Team Wirtz to see that, and Liverpool to define that this player will make us better.
Jan, is he going to get stuck in and do the dirty work then? Is that what you're saying? Will he do that too?
Is there a lot of dirty work done at Liverpool for the back top people? They were talking about people who doing that. Craig called garbage. There's garbage things that need to be done, and they got enough players doing that. Florian Wirtz don't have to do that, but he's disciplined enough. That my point being that you can't win the league with Bayer Leverkusen. You can't play with Germany if you are just a player going forward. Often these players who are so tactically good, they find a way to just do what they have to do to not play with 10 when the opposition got the ball. So I'm not worried about that at all.
Liverpool are not signing players that it's all about them. They sign players that it's about their talent, yes, and what they bring to the team, but it's about their ability to sort of gel with the others within that squad. They did not go on the run that they went on, particularly in the first half of last year. That's when they blew the rest of the Premier League away. We can talk about City falling off and Arsenal's injuries and all that sort of stuff, and those things happen, but Liverpool blew them away by Christmas, right? And then even Liverpool were able to take their foot off the gas. But they did not do that by carrying people. They didn't, even for Mo Salah. the superstar that he is. He still has to do his tracking back to help out Alexander-Arnold as it was. So the players have to come in and they know their job. There is a structure within this Liverpool team and everybody has got a job to do both offensively and defensively, whether it's Florian Wirtz or Gakpo or whoever it is. It doesn't matter. And I think that's what they've got. I mean, do some players work harder and are more aggressive than others? Yeah. But that's why you have midfielders behind. And I don't think we'll be... I'll be surprised if we're sitting here next season or when the season starts talking about Florian Wirtz's lack of work rate. You know, I don't think that'll be that'll be something that... I mean, obviously we cover Real Madrid a lot and we talk about it a lot. And that's kind of the different approach where they just try and sign these superstars who, like Vinicius Junior and Kylian Mbappe, who think it's all about them and the rest can go and just do the dirty work for them. That's not the approach at Liverpool and some of the other clubs, and I don't think we're going to see it this season.
Listen, I agree. I think Florian Wirtz is an incredible player. But to the statement and about him being free, as an attacking player, you can play with that freedom. And it just comes down to that, to your understanding of those players who make up the rest of the front three or front four, as it were. But defensively, surely, even as a player who's given freedom going forward, you have to be far more disciplined going back. I think while it's easy to draw comparisons with Leverkusen, but Leverkusen was more built around Florian Wirtz. Florian Wirtz was the star of that team. You come in and you earn that right at Liverpool, not by a price tag. You earn that by performances on the park. And again, it's pre-season, but there's no suggestion that there's a lack of understanding between him and the quality that he has around him up front. But particularly in the Champions League, you go deep in the Champions League, it is a lot about that discipline defensively. You mentioned Ancelotti and Real Madrid. I thought a couple of seasons ago, in that second half of the season Champions League run, that's when you saw Vinicius Junior at his best in terms of going forward and that freedom he played for, but also that understanding of what he had to do coming back defensively and Bellingham kind of covering that side for him. Those are the telling times for Liverpool at the higher end of the competition, because while you could be as free as you want defensively for maybe 25, 30 of 38 Premier League games, you get into the second half of the Champions League, you come up against the likes of PSG, etc. You're going to be found out if you aren't disciplined defensively.
When Arne Slot first came in, when he came in last year, if he's taken off Mo Salah and he's taken off Diaz and these players and the crowd said, what the hell's this guy doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. You know, if it wasn't going right and if things weren't going swimmingly and he was making these big changes, where he's manoeuvred himself into a position, I know he was successful in Holland, but we're talking about England here, he manoeuvred himself into a position with the season that they had last year that he's in such a strong position, he can make those decisions. If players are not performing, he can take the Mo Salahs off. You can take the Florian Wirtz off. He's not working hard enough. He's not doing this or doing that. You can make changes. They have a big enough squad to do so. They have a good enough squad to be able to make those changes. The manager has earned the respect to make those decisions and not be questioned about he doesn't know what he's doing, because he clearly does. And so what they did last year, I think, has given the club so much confidence in the manager, because we never know. You know, Xabi Alonso's in at Real Madrid this year after this great success in Germany. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how it's going to go. I mean, I know it's a bit of a mess there at times, but we just don't know. We didn't know what Arne Slot was going to bring to Liverpool, because Jurgen Klopp was such a sort of legendary figure at the club. It was Klopp's team. It became Klopp's club for quite a few years, and it sort of mirrored him, the energy and the drive and the passion. And so it was a setback for everybody, whether it's pundits or journalists or supporters, and say, well, what is Arne Slot going to bring to the Premier League? What's he going to bring to Liverpool? And I think we got our answer and some.
Yes, absolutely. Beth, thank you so much for being with us. We'll no doubt be talking to you again very soon about some of these topics to do with Liverpool. And she will be at the Liverpool game against Crystal Palace, the FA Community Shield, Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Here's Eddie Howe on Alexander Isak. This is the latest. You have to earn the right to train with us. We are Newcastle United. The player has a responsibility here to be part of a team and part of a squad, and you have to act the right way, so that is also at play here. No player can expect to act poorly and train with the group as normal.
He has got a point.
ESPN FC is presented by Xfinity.
Talking
The
about-
Wi-Fi is booming. Let's welcome Jan Agerfjortoft.
I thought you were going to go to Jan about the training poorly.
Well, that would have been a nice segue, wouldn't it?
I always train hard.
It would have been a very nice segue.
Particularly when he's had a night out in Barnsley.
I was actually going to go to Xhaka because it sounds to me like Eddie Howe doesn't really care to have Alexander Isak training with his team. Here's Shaq.
No, I think absolutely he cares to have Isak training with his team, but kind of given Isak's behaviour and missing training, he has to, at the very least, for the rest of the dressing room, make the point that no one player is bigger than the club. And Alexander Isak, for as good as he's been over the last 3 years that he's been there, is not. I don't think you just walk away from training and stay away in some matter of protest and then stroll back in and expect everybody to act as though nothing has happened. And I think Eddie Howe is absolutely right to call Alexander Isak out and on this in this way. And for me, I thought Isak, as much as I love Alexander Isak, I do not condone what he did. And I think professionally, it's kind of shooting yourself in your foot. You know where Newcastle are in that if a bid big enough comes in and they're able to secure a replacement, you can go. Alexander Isak's got nothing to do with that. You've got 3 years left in a contract. What, you're going to stay away for 3 years? I don't understand some of his behaviours in that regard. I just feel he's been badly advised.
It seems though, Shaq, this is the kind of go-to mantra of some of the bigger players these days, that not even the bigger players, even the average players, who don't get what they want or don't get the move that they want at the time that they want. And I can empathise. We all had bad times at clubs and we all had transfers and some dragged out longer than others. But I agree with Shaq, I think the advice some of these players are getting and the fact that they are, it seems on the face of it, taking this advice is, I think, ill-advised. And I understand he wants this move to happen, right? I get that. You know, who wouldn't? Newcastle are a great club, but Liverpool are just a bigger, better, more successful club. And he wants to further his career. But this move might not happen. And this is the problem when you take this stance. That if this move does not happen and ownership dig their heels in, then ultimately you have to walk back into that dressing room, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to walk back out onto that field. And they're a passionate bunch, as Shaq will tell you. And he could go if he doesn't make this move to Liverpool, and it looks like he probably will, but there's a chance it doesn't happen. He has to pull that Newcastle jersey on again and walk out in front of 60,000 at St James's Park. And he's gone from hero to zero, not by the fact that he was going to entertain the Liverpool move, but the fact that the way that he tried to go about it. And that...
Yeah.
That is sometimes putting yourself in a very, very difficult position if this move doesn't come off. Because if it doesn't come off, he's going to get a lot of stick from a lot of people on a weekly basis. And that's not good for club, it's not good for him, and it certainly is not going to be good for Eddie Howe.
Jan?
And the only one that's good for is maybe an agent. It's the people in and around him. Because Alexander Isak got to walk into that Newcastle dressing room at some point. What is great about football, and the thing we miss, every footballer, is to be in a dressing room. Because you don't care. Nationality, religion, color of your skin, where are you from, how much you earn. In the dressing room, you're equal. So when Xhaka is saying, I don't understand what he's doing, but we maybe understand what an agent is doing, because an agent doesn't have to go into a dressing room. I don't know the agent of Alexander Isak. I speak in general. The only thing off the top of my head is what Dortmund had a problem with that culture some years ago when Aubameyang was going to strike. Dembélé was going to a strike to get his move away from Dortmund. So I think of. I work a lot with strategy. I think a lot of strategy, and I think of sometimes, wouldn't it be better for Alexander Isak? Wouldn't it be more likely that he would get a move if he was 100% there, worked hard, went to the pre-season camp, did what he had to do, and then people will never understand how he will switch club A for B anyway. That is another thing. But the emotional thing that is going on now, when you kind of tell people that I'm too good for you, I don't want to be around, And I mean, there is a lot of proud fans around the world. There are a lot of proud fan base, but you have to understand Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle is as passionate you can have. And he think that this is the right move to get a move. Eddie Howe is like a JFK, like a Barack Obama when he's statesman. He kind of gets a goal it's an open goal for him to say these kind of things because everybody is speaking to his choir. They will love him for this. And Alexander Isak, well, we know if he comes back and scored 3 goals in the first game, they will forgive him. But there is a lot of ifs here. To sort this out for Alexander Isak. I think he's bad advice, and I think he's used a totally wrong strategy.
On a more worrying note for Eddie Howe, it's getting very close to the season starting, 10 days or so. Transfer window's not too far away. If this thing goes the distance and they're hedging their bets, Callum Wilson's not there now. He was sort of secondary to Alexander Isak, but he was another body who did a decent job for them. Is where do they go? They're in the Champions League. They want to have a very strong season again in the Premier League, which they did not the year that they were in the Champions League 2 years ago. So that really affected them. And it affected them in a sense because the squad wasn't big enough. And here we're talking about losing a member and potentially not replacing, particularly if Sesko goes to Manchester United. So it's leaving Eddie Howe, I think, in a very difficult position. And it's almost in a sense where, you know, as a club, and I don't say this lightly, but it's almost give his player what he wants. If he really wants to go, just let him go. At least we can clean the mess up and then try and move forward because we know he's not there. At the moment, they don't know whether he's in, whether he's out, and whether they need to bring somebody else through the door. And you ask any manager, they would have wanted all of this done at the beginning of July. The very place where, you know, Liverpool and Arsenal and 1 or 2 clubs did some early business, that's when Eddie Howe would have wanted this done. Not going into August and not 10 days before the start of the season.
To that point, I think Eddie Howe has been blindsided by this. And that also does not help Isak's position.
No, absolutely not. And I'm sure.
What do you mean from the player?
Yes.
Saying, like, I'm not, you know, don't worry about it.
I think, to your point, if June 1st, for argument's sake, they knew that Isak wanted to go and that the interest from Liverpool was there and real, they could have started to make inquiries at the very least at that point. But then all of a sudden, things just escalated 2 weeks ago or thereabouts. Isak stormed off and stayed home. And as a result, Newcastle are now trying to find a striker to fill a void after having agreed to let Callum Wilson go, etc. I just feel the club have been blindsided. And that hasn't helped their position, hasn't helped their attitude towards Isak. It's made everything just so much worse.
And I would just say, if I may, Kay, there is only losers in a process like this because if you come to end of the transfer window, you don't have a replacement, and maybe you have to say, Isak, you got to stay. I mean, we can say, remember when Cristiano Ronaldo wanted to go to Real Madrid, Manchester United said to him, you can stay for another year, we'll let you go next summer. I mean, you will always look for solutions, but you can't let the club down. Because if he takes him back, that is the credibility of a leader, Eddie Howe. If you just freeze him out, then you will struggle as a team. You will lose football games. You go into the Champions League. You maybe end up with taking a striker on loan. I mean, I remember back in the days when Arsenal never got one, and at the end, the last 2 days, Arsene Wenger found some striker, often a Swede, by the way, in that position to just fill in. And so there's only losers in this process, and the biggest losers are the Newcastle fans, because you can never explain to them why any player can leave, but at least you can't let a player who nearly threatening to strike to leave the club, because that will make a bad culture at the club.
Yeah, no doubt we will continue talking about this whole saga on tomorrow's ESPN FC.
Not for as long though.
No, don't forget.
Eric Ten Hag.
Come on, Eric.
There's a few things that annoy Craig Burley. He's with us tonight.
Eric's on a 3-game winning streak, yes.
Eric Ten Hag on a 3-game winning streak in the friendly action.
No.
But best of all,
By the way,
I know it's coming.
That show was so long, my tea's freezing.
Your tea's freezing.
People piping on. What? Go on and say it. Does it involve emails?
Yes. I thought we had to add a little bit more context because it got mentioned yesterday.
Give the context.
And honestly, we can delve really deep into this whole topic.
Oh, God.
So we were sent an email asking for our Premier League predictions for the season ahead. And
yeah.
Craig hopes to get in first by replying all to say, I'm just replying all to tell everyone not to reply all with their predictions.
So one of my pet hates, and there are many. How many people were on that list? 20 some. So anyway, I replied to the producer. Just replied, not reply all. Reply.
So did I, Craig. I was with you. So did I.
Next thing you know, and I didn't need any of this. I didn't need proof that we have some of the thickest, dumbest.
I'm going to read what he actually said.
Let me say something, right?
Dumbest. I mean, we have some. Our boss just goes out and hires people that are like gaga. You can't even.
Don't put me and Shaka in. Don't put me and Shaka in.
Hang on, can I quote Craig?
Can I just say
Can we all give our heads a wobble and stop replying all and a little bit more?
Well, it was Don.
Well, he'd got in before you.
Well, what got me was Don. I'm not, Don. And then after I shellacked, sent the email out, basically, come on. Then old balloon head himself, Nico, he sends one reply.
Let me just.
But did he do it on purpose? That's my big question.
No,
Let me just hold my hand up. I replied to the producer, but I stared at that email for about 10 minutes. Going to reply all. I just couldn't resist.
No, Stevie doesn't reply.
Honestly, I was so tempted.
Stevie don't give him any credibility that he doesn't.
No.
He does it because he hasn't got a clue. But you know who the worst one was? The worst one was, and I expected a lot better from him, Stuart Robson, because I thought he had a brain in his head. He sent his predictions just to me.
Okay, in his defence, because you'd reply all to tell us not to reply all, the next natural reply came to you rather than the original person.
And when he presses the button, who it's going to, he should have seen that.
But Craig, I'm with you because I got it very early and I saw it straight away and I knew that everybody would put, I would reply all. I knew that
close to reply all.
I so wanted to. But I was so funny because there was, that myth that footballers are thick. Yes. I think we got that proved, didn't we?
Yeah. I knew it was coming. Reply all. And you know what? I was sat, people were looking at me because I was sat in Petco car park buying dog food. And there was people going past the car.
You know what was good too? When people replied all, Craig then replied to them. Honestly, that was so.
Honestly, there should be studies done on it.
I could just imagine Craig 4 minutes involved. Honestly, I was so tempted.
We have people that do it, and there's 100 people in the list, and I'm like, there wasn't 100 on it, but there was 20. At least half of them had their brain surgically removed.
All right, tea's freezing now. Okay, Craig, did your family all come straight out of the positivity corner onto the set yesterday? They all looked so happy to be there.
A bunch of nieces and nephews I took them on a little tour, which they enjoyed, particularly the new DC building, which is not new now, it's 10 years old, but the big NFL studios, the big budget studios like this, really big. So they enjoyed it. And then they came on and they were on TV, so they were.
Very nice.
Well, it was extra time.
He spent 2 days complaining about signing him up as well.
Yeah.
I got to sign him up. Just come for a visit. 2 days. Of that.
Everyone had to be an individual sign-up, and there was a lot of them. So
there's a lot of people.
Did you reply all when you signed him up, or did you reply all?
Yes, I always reply all. I'm just going to reply all.
Okay. If Isak is under contract with Newcastle, is he not legally obliged to report to duty on time at Newcastle? Is it unfair on Newcastle's part where he is literally now betraying the contracts?
Well, yeah.
No.
Well, you could not. But you could not show up, and the club could fine you 2 weeks' wages. At least that's how it used to be. You could get fined 2 weeks' wages for that infringement. So, which I'm sure the club would have done.
But I think it's because there is a lot of talk now. Like for today, for example, Sesko didn't train with RB Leipzig, so there are always kind of agreements between clubs that maybe it's better you stay away because the old media is here or something like that. With Isak is different. I mean, Eddie Howe said he didn't know that he was in Spain training, so that is something else. But you don't feel with all the tension around now. He wants to go. Newcastle need a replacement. I don't think you would throw the lawyers on him.
It looks like Sesko will cost Manchester United or Newcastle around €95 million, the same price that Liverpool paid for Hugo Ekitike. Which player is likely to have the better season? I'll start that one with you, Jan.
I will start with Hugo because he was going to play for Liverpool. He comes to a team that will function. He comes to a team that creates chances. Ekitike had a fantastic season for Eintracht Frankfurt last season. They were third in the league. They qualified for the Champions League. After Marmoush left, he had to lead the line in Frankfurt, and he did. RB Leipzig had a terrible season out of Europe, so it was harder for a striker, for a Sesko to do well. So I think that is an easy one. Ekitike will do better because he's playing for a functioning team. Manchester United is not there yet.
Although it's a pre-season game, Bayern Munich face Tottenham this Thursday in what will probably be Luis Diaz's first proper test. Will he make a bigger impact at Bayern than Kudus at Spurs this season?
Well, Diaz will. I think Diaz. First of all, Diaz has played a friendly. He came on, got him a penalty, but I think he will do better. I think that he will be a success at Bayern. You can talk a lot about the strategy of signing a player that is a big chance that he won't get anything when his contract is up, but he will do well because what we know about Luis Diaz is he's an honest worker. He will go forward and back. He will make energy. He will make intensity, and I think that on that left side of Bayern or whatever where they're going to play him, I guess he'll be there, and in and around Harry Kane, he will get a lot of scoring points.
Neymar scored a brace for Santos last night. Percentage chance he makes Ancelotti's squad in 311 days.
90%.
Yeah, I think it's high. Though I'm not convinced Neymar. I'm a little bit torn on this Brazil. On the one hand, I want to say I do think Neymar makes them is who's needed, but then this is as bad a Brazil team as I've ever seen, and they need a spark from somewhere. I don't know.
I think in normal circumstances, if Brazil were really strong, then
he wouldn't.
He doesn't make it. But
It's a bad Brazil team. Goodness.
You get a feeling of that Argentinian team in front of the '94 World Cup. A lot of people won't remember, but they were terrible, Argentina. They had to go through a playoff with Australia. Maradona had 20 kilos too much. He was still the savior. They got him back. They got him on a diet, and he came back, and he was fantastic at the USA World Cup till they found the reason why he was so good, and he was suspended.
Well, that's one way to put it. OK, did you see the video of the training incident between De Zerbi and Kone? Was De Zerbi out of line by telling Kone to call his agent, which led to Kone leaving Marseille? This video has resurfaced, I think.
it was very exciting when there's nothing else going on in the summer.
Why? That's my big question. Why has it resurfaced now?
When was it?
It was back, well, he left in January, so it had to be back end of December, early January.
Well, Marseille just posted it.
But why though?
Why?
That was my thing. So now, you hear all sorts on training grounds, right? There's always all kinds of going back and forth, whether it's between players, whether it's manager and player, whatever it is. That happens. Players come and go, whether there's an exchange or not. I just don't understand why 7 months later that video is published. What does that achieve? And that's the big concern for me. Why does this come out 7 months later?
Well, I can tell you it's not a concern to me.
I'm very concerned.
Really surprised.
I'm very concerned.
I have...
Maybe it was a guy who have the media post or the social media post that pushed reply all. And there was out that could happen.
It's start, bench or drop. Erik ten Hag, 3 on the bounce in the pre-season with Leverkusen.
Oh boy.
Reply all, or De Zerbi having a tiff with Kone.
Reply all is I'll answer for Craig. Reply all is start. Ten Hag is bench. Drop Kone. I'll reply.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just come off the list. I'll just block everybody.
Can you drop all? Can you drop all 3?
Thank you guys for sending in your questions. We will be back tomorrow to do it all over again here on ESPN FC.
Any 8-month-old videos we can show?
Auf Wiedersehen.
Bye.